Good morning, Galaxians. Welcome to another live edition of the Galaxy CDs Rocks and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. My name is Ryan, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the dreaded summer slowdown. And I really hope we just have some kind of nice back and forth, a discussion, which I know is a little one-sided because I'm the only one that can talk. But if you're here live and in the chat, I would really like to hear, or at least read, your feedback on how you're doing, not just with your business, but with the roller coaster of emotions that can be summer slowdown. So that's, I think I just lost my mic. No. There's all kinds of things beeping at me over here. Let me know if for some reason you can't hear me because something just beeped, which was weird. So anyway, let's hop in here real quick to the chat and see who's with us this morning. Lord Jake Ryan, you were here very early. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. Carla Kopic, good morning, everyone. And Big Dre, good morning to you as well. So I asked in the title of this episode, is summer slowdown inevitable or avoidable? And if we're being completely honest, it's probably a little bit of both. Businesses, all businesses, or at least most of them, have some sort of cycle. We always talk in reselling about Q4, how we ramp up for Q4, and that is our big time of the year. Well, clearly not every time of the year can be your best time of year, and summer tends to be where things get a little bit slow. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and unfortunately, a great many of them are out of your control. So there is a certain amount of inevitability about it. Summer comes, and the kids are out of school, people are on vacations, taking trips, going to softball games, doing whatever. They're outside and hopefully at least off their phones and off their computers, and they're not shopping. Additionally, their money is also tied up in other things. So unless you have very kind of summer specific stock, which is kind of the first tip, I guess, to help alleviate summer slowdown, is as you go through the spring, be thinking about the kinds of things. Obviously, this advice is a little late for this year, but be thinking about some of the things that you might want to carry for summer that would help squash the slowdown. So whatever that might be, swimwear or pool floaties or whatever you can get your hands on that would be summer oriented, sporting goods or whatever the case may be that people might be looking for during the summer. Those kind of businesses don't suffer as much of a summer slowdown as others because they have things that people might be looking for. Some other things that I've done, and I did a video last year about this as well. If you're not doing promotions or markdown sales, this is probably a good time to consider doing those. And if you're already doing them, maybe consider ramping them up. So if you've been following along here for any length of time, you know that I do pretty much a monthly clearance sale. So anything I've got in my inventory that has been here for more than 1 year is essentially perpetually on sale. There's maybe 1 or 2 days a month where I'm not running some kind of a sale. But in the summer, June and July are the 2 months where I utilize the biggest discounts. So if normally my top discount is 40 or maybe 50% in the summer, like right now in July, I'm running, I think my top one is 60%. I'm really trying to incentivize the people who are shopping to get active and to make a purchase on some of those older items that I would like to move and just generate some cash flow. The other thing, of course, is promoted listings. And I'm hands up, I'm not a huge fan. I hate having to pay extra to eBay to do the thing they should already be doing for me, which is surfacing my listings to interested buyers. But unfortunately, that's the way the thing is set up now. And I went to promoted listings, maybe 18 months ago. And last summer, I bumped my percentage a little bit. This summer, about 3 weeks ago, I bumped it another 1% just to try to get that extra little bit of lift. Has it worked? I would argue that it has. So June and July are still likely to be my 2 slowest months of the year. But when I went back in kind of preparing for this episode and looked at the 5 years I've been doing this, I just completed a record June, and July, while it is not going to be a record month, as of Monday, has already beat last July with still like 9 days to go. So those are a few things that you can do to kind of help. You can't eliminate it. I don't think there's any way, even if you did all of those things, to eliminate summer slowdown. There's just a certain amount of inevitability about it, but you can help make it a little less painful. I want to hop back into the chat here real quick and see what some of you have to say. Carla says, do you find your sales for books increase during summer due to people reading on vacations? I love to read. Interestingly, this year that has been the case, but it's been not necessarily the kinds of books that I would expect that people are reading on the beach. So I have sold a ton of like vintage textbooks and material science books and things like that that are more professional level. So again, one of the things that I do in the summer, and I talked about this on someone else's channel not too long ago, is I try to utilize the extra time that I have available because I'm not packing as many orders to do more listings and to do a little more sourcing, to do a little more networking. And again, if you follow along at home for any length of time on this channel, you know I already do an average of probably 100 listings a week, new listings. But during the summer, I may bump that up to 110 or 120, depending on what's going on, to try to, again, get as much of my product in front of as many people as possible. The other thing that helps you with, obviously, is fourth quarter prep. We're always, like we just talked about, getting ready for Q4. The more stuff you can list now while you've got some time is the less stuff you have to do to prepare for the upcoming fourth quarter. So you get kind of the best of both worlds there. This summer, yes, I have found a pretty big increase in book sales, but it has not, like I said, it's not been what I would have expected for summertime reading. Big Dre, I haven't had a summer slowdown except for a few days off or dead sales when I was on vacation. Otherwise, sales have been good. That's awesome. And not everybody experiences it to the same level. I think it makes a difference in the things that you're doing, again, and the kind of stock that you carry. Mine has just been wildly inconsistent. So what was it? 3 weeks ago on my regular Monday episode, I talked about having had my best week ever. And I followed that up immediately with one of, if not the worst weeks ever. And then I rebounded to, again, kind of back to normal. So it's just, for me, it's been super inconsistent. It's just been a roller coaster all summer long. Net, it's been okay. Again, these 2 months are probably not going to be as strong as April and May were, and certainly not as strong as what's going to happen when we get into fourth quarter. But the things that I've tried to do have helped to, over the course of that time, make it a little bit more palatable. Upper Annie on eBay, thanks for coming out. I would love to put on a sale, but I can't because I don't have a store. Yeah, that, again, I don't know if you could go through and maybe mark down things. I don't know if you don't have a store, do you have access to do a coupon? Because you can run a coupon, which would effectively do the same thing. I don't know the answer to that because I've had a store for pretty much the entire time I've been doing this. If you don't have a store and you know the answer to that, leave it in the chat. Let us know. Can you do a coupon? Because that would do the same thing. If you applied the coupon to all of your items, it will show up on your listing as though that item is on sale. What percentage do you recommend for promoted listings? So I don't know that I have a recommendation. I know people that are doing 1 or 2%. I know other people that are doing 12 or 14%. It depends on how much margin you have in your products and how much of that you're willing to sacrifice to try to move them. When I first started doing promoted listings, I started at 5. Last summer, I went to 7. Right now, I'm at 8. Probably next month, I'll go back down to 7. I haven't noticed a humongous lift having gone to 8, so I'll probably dial that back down to 7 once I get through July and kind of the slowest of the slow period, maybe middle of August. At the latest, I'll take that back down. But again, it has to be an individual decision based on the products that you're carrying and the kind of margin you're willing to sacrifice to try to get more eyeballs. One interesting thing I have noticed, let me see if I can pull this up actually on the screen here. So this is my my advertising screen. And you can see here, there are a ton of, if I look, the promoted listings are getting a lot more views than the organic listings, which is what you would expect. You would expect that those, since you're essentially trying to pay for those, that those would get a lot more views. But if I go to actual clicks, look at the difference here. A ton more clicks on organic, which tells me that a lot of those promoted listings are being shown to people who are not necessarily super interested in the item that's been shown to them. So I don't know whether it's irrelevant or what the situation is, but that is a big, big difference. Interestingly, though, when I go to sales, it's almost more the promoted listings. So even though they got less clicks, almost every time period shown here, the promoted listings actually generated more sales per click than did the organic ones, which I found really interesting. And again, I can't say whether there's any nefarious things going on with eBay that's the case. Part of it, I'm sure, has to do with their halo attribution. So somebody clicked a promoted listing a week ago and then comes back and buys something, that is going to register as a sale from a promoted listing, which is, I don't know that that's necessarily, it wasn't even necessarily the item that was shown. There are cases where a person would click one item, and then I've got one guy that over the past month has bought 20 some items from me. I doubt seriously that he clicked promoted item listings on all of those. He probably did on one or two, then went to my store and made a bunch of purchases, and I paid fees on almost all of that. So it's a very unusual situation, but I thought that was really interesting that the impressions obviously dramatically favor those promoted listings. The clicks, however, do not match that. And the sales then kind of go back to the promoted listings, which is super unusual. I thought that was really odd. Let me know what you think of any of that. I'll try to get back on my main screen here. I'm losing everything. Do you ever have one of those days where the technology just fails you? Oh, goodness. That's why I usually don't do lives, or I hadn't. 73.97 is my 90-day total, which is a new record for me. I've more than doubled my sales compared to last year. That's awesome. I'm not anywhere near double. I am up, I think, about 15%. Most importantly for me, while my sales are up a decent amount, my profit is up like 20 or 25%. So I'm making more sales, but more importantly for me, I'm making more profit on those sales. Like I talk about on the show pretty regularly, you make your money on the buy. And I just posted over the weekend on Instagram, shameless plug, at Galaxy CDs Rocks, that I just did a buyout of an estate through some networking, leaving a card at the end of the sale and saying, hey, I'll come back and get all of this stuff. And I'm actually doing another pickup like that tomorrow. The one I did on Sunday ended up being 100 and some odd books that I'm going to get for an average of about 79 cents a piece. Tomorrow's pickup, I don't know how many books it is yet, but it's a free book pickup. Katie Reed special, free 99. I think it's probably 25 or 30 boxes of books, so probably several hundred bucks that will not cost me anything, which obviously helps with your profit margins. So it pays to network. If you're going to those estate sales, talk to those sellers, find out what they need help with, what are items that you might be able to buy from them that they're having a hard time getting rid of, that you could get a good deal on. That helps with your margins. It helps give you stuff to list. It's a win-win for everybody if the estate sellers at the end of the sale don't have to mess with that stuff as well. So, and again, those are things that can help when business gets slow. It's a great opportunity to work on that dreaded death pile as well. If you've accumulated a lot of stuff, get to work on listing that now that you've got some extra time. So, but again, congrats, Big Dre. That is a huge, huge increase. And it shows that there is still opportunity out there. I was in a Facebook group last week where people were complaining again about it being slow. And Dre and I are clearly examples of, if you continue to push, you can kind of make your own luck. You can create a situation where even when things are a little tough, you can still grow your business. Inevitably, There are times that are better than others. I say all the time, every week cannot be your best week ever. Every day cannot be your best day ever. But if you put forth the effort and put in the work every day, those things will pay off over the long term. The other thing with Summer Slowdown, obviously, is what it can do to you, especially if you're a new seller, mentally. It is an incredibly frustrating experience, especially when you're new. You may not know, you haven't experienced business cycles. It's one of the reasons, even this month, I felt like, man, it is really slow. It feels slow because I can tell just from the physical work I'm doing, how many packages I'm processing on a given morning or at the end of a weekend. And it just felt slow. And it's very easy to get caught up in the feeling of that and get kind of down on yourself. And that's why I go back every so often and actually look at my numbers. Now, again, I've got 5 years of history. I can go back and look at 5 years worth of summer times and see, okay, every summer this same thing happens, and every summer, late summer and fall, it comes back to me. Business picks back up. So I don't panic. I don't freak out. But if you don't have that history, the only way you would know that that's going to be the case is if you're watching shows like this and others on YouTube or listening to podcasts where they talk about the fact that things are going to come back to you if you just keep doing the things. What you can't do is become too down, become too defeatist, and stop doing the things that you know that you should do. I'll relay a story of back in my retail days. So I worked for a couple of companies who were suffering from some slow times in their businesses, and the natural inclination for them was to cut back. So they cut back on advertising, they cut back on inventory, they cut back on staffing. And it led to kind of a vicious spiral. So you've already got less business and you got less people coming in. So they cut back on their advertising, which meant even less people were coming in. So sales were down for that. Then the people that did come in, they couldn't find any help. They couldn't find the stuff they wanted in the store. And they also left without making a purchase. So sales dropped even further. So they reduced advertising and staffing even more, and it just became a never-ending downward spiral that ultimately led to both of those companies going out of business. This is the time when it's slow where you really have to kind of double down. Like I said, I run a more aggressive discount in the summer. I run higher promotion fees in the summer to try to capture that extra little bit of business to offset what we're losing just because traffic is already down. When I go back and I look at my clicks and my impressions, they're all down in the summer, every summer, because there are just less people around. So doing those things that we all know we should do, when business is booming, you don't need to advertise as much. Obviously, you don't want to stop, but it's when things get tough that you need to do those extra little steps. Let's get back here into the chat. Operating on eBay, my cost of goods is 0. Well, there you go. Decluttering, but I'm so tempted to try to get top dollar when I look at comps. I need to prioritize just getting it off my shelves and pricing them super low. And there is a middle ground there. The old, fast nickel, slow dime. Those are different business propositions. And I would argue that maybe trying to get the 8 cents instead of the nickel or the dime might be the better option. When I do my research, and if you were here for that episode, you kind of saw the process that I went through. I'm not always trying to get the maximum dollar. I'm trying to get the maximum dollar for my item relative to what else is out there. And I'm looking at multiple sites to see what the lay of the land is. If there's one on eBay for $75, but there's something on Abe Books or Amazon or whatever for $25, trying to list it for $75 on eBay is probably counterproductive. So looking at kind of a broad range of places to get an actual sense of what the market is, and then deciding, okay, do I want to hold out? There are some things that I absolutely will hold out for top dollar because I know I've got one of only 2 or 3 of these things. If somebody really wants it, they're going to pay. Versus flipping it too fast and you didn't maximize your profit. Again, if your cost of goods sold is 0, it's probably not as important. Or finding that middle ground. Okay, here's the cheapest one is 10, the most expensive one is 30. I'm going to price mine at 20 and make sure I've got a great listing. Lots of great pictures, great description, great title, and try to position my listing to win. And maybe you do a promoted thing, or you run a coupon or something to try to get that last little bit of incentive that the other guy is not doing. Jennifer Raybod, welcome. Thank you for that. It's my first year, and yes, it really slowed down. I just keep listing. I know the consistency will pay off in the long run. Absolutely. Like I said, you're setting yourself up for future success. It's not always necessarily just about today. Obviously, it will help, but you're doing the right things. You've got to trust your process. That's something we talk about in retail and in business all the time. If you've got a process that you know works and will be successful, you got to keep working the process. And that doesn't mean you don't make adjustments. Maybe you look at different items to carry to help, like I said, with the summertime stuff. You can find ways to tweak it, but you don't want to give up on the process just because things got a little slow. And again, you got to try to find a way to keep your spirits up. Media Picker, welcome. Good to see you, sir. I'm trying to slow down, particularly this month, but I also haven't had the time to put it into it like before. And that is key. And again, I know you're part-time, which makes a big difference. And we're all in the same boat. I would rather be out enjoying a nice sunny day at the park rather than sitting in my basement doing listings. But I've got a business to run and I got to make ends meet. So I do those things. We're all in the same boat. But and I notice that sometimes it feels like, and I can't prove it, but it feels like even if I miss a day of listing, the next day or two, my traffic and my business is down. And then on the following day, I'll ramp up and I'll do 25 or 30 listings. And then 2 or 3 days later, business picks back up. So that consistent, constant effort does seem to pay off, particularly on eBay. And I've heard that it does on other sites as well. Operating on eBay. Yes, that was an excellent video. Thank you. I appreciate that. Basically, you put into eBay what you want to get out of eBay. Generally speaking, the more you list, the more you sell. And that is absolutely true. Obviously, you want to try to list quality inventory, things that are going to sell. I talk about all the time. I'm a big believer in long tail. I'm not necessarily looking for things that have super high sell-through rate. For me, it doesn't have to necessarily sell super fast. I don't mind hanging on to something for a bit to maximize some potential out of it. But that constant activity, it's like most things, you get out of it what you put into it. Black Cat Flips, welcome. Good morning, all. Just popping in at work. I'll have to catch the replay. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Had my best month ever last month, but this month is slow. And again, it's the roller coaster. It is so hard to predict, other than maybe Q4, what business is going to look like. You do consistently the same. You're listing the same products. You're listing the same number of products. You're doing everything exactly the same. And sometimes it's just like a switch flips. One month it's just going terrific, and the next month it's crickets. It is so difficult to predict. The key thing is to not get down on it. Remember that you had a great month and focus on the things that'll make next month a great month as well. Callie Debs, good morning to Ryan in the chat. Hello, welcome. Like we all know to do, I'm just going to keep listing. Yep, that is with all of these sites. It seems to me that they all reward activity. The more active you are, listing, sending out offers, accepting offers, all of those things seem to make a difference in how much stuff gets surfaced and how much business you're able to do. So I know it's frustrating. And it's really easy to get down on yourself, but you gotta kind of just keep grinding away, knowing that even if it doesn't pay immediate benefits, again, over that long term, we've already started hearing people talk about Q4 and we're not even to the end of July yet. Those things make a difference, and anything that you can do to get ahead now is stuff you don't have to do then, and you can focus on getting your orders shipped and packed and out the door and counting that money. Fern Flips, good morning. Happy to have finally made one of these. It's good to see you in the live. Yeah, I know the timing on this is really not great, 11 o'clock on a Wednesday, but it's so hard to find like a great time to do these because people have other things. Like ideally for me, Thursday would probably be a better day to give a little bit more gap between the Monday episode and this live. But Thursday, at least in my area, can be a big sourcing day. Like tomorrow, I'm going out to pick up that big bunch of books. So it just varies. And I know a lot of folks are part-time. So you're at your day job, your real job, and it's really hard to get in. So I appreciate that you popped in, and I appreciate everybody that catches this on replay as well. So let me know your thoughts. How are you all doing with Summer Slowdown? I know a few of you have talked about being pretty slow this month. I see a lot of that in some of the groups that I'm in, where July has been really, really rough. I've been pretty lucky. This July has been super strong, but that's on the back of 2 really big sales and 1 buyer who has made 2 really big purchases on top of that. If you took those 4 sales out, I would probably be complaining about July being very slow as well. But how is everybody feeling? How are we all doing on the mental and emotional side? I know Katie Reeds just did a video a couple of days ago about this and the importance of kind of maintaining your mental health and your good spirits and your good attitude through this. Let me know how you're doing in the chat. Miss Lachey, good morning. Welcome. Thanks for coming out. Callie Debs, it's very slow for me right now. So let me know, those of you who are experiencing a particularly rough month, if you don't mind sharing, let us know what things you're trying to do to compensate for that. What things have you heard from other resellers or other shows on YouTube or podcasts that people have recommended that you try to do that would help your business pick up a little bit? Operating on eBay, I'm the problem for my summer slowdown sales. I've slowed down on my listings. Right. And that is almost inevitable. And again, like even in my case, you can't maintain like a super aggressive listing pattern forever. At some point, you got to take a bit of a break because it's mentally taxing to sit down here in the basement and grind out 100 listings a week or whatever. You've got to do it. You see, again, the immediate result. If you're not listing, you're not selling because, again, you're probably not triggering the algorithm. You've got less stuff in front of what is already a smaller audience, and it just starts to compound. And then, again, the mental part of it is you start to get down on it, and that makes you want to list even less, even though you know you need to list even more. So it can be a really hard thing to break through. Lindy Moo, welcome. Super duper slow, but it's been kind of nice. I'm just a part-timer for fun. And yeah, like I said, take the opportunity when it's slow to do other things, to do more sourcing, to do more listing, to work down that death pile, to experiment with coupons or offers or whatever. Try some different things while you've got some downtime. And to be fair, enjoy some summer, especially if you're doing this full time, because Q4 is going to be here before you know it, and it's going to be super busy, and it's going to be hard to break away to get some fun stuff done. Better Health Blessings, welcome. Mentally doing okay, a little slow, but I did create a free shipping policy for 3 items in the store, and it has helped. So there you go. There's another example, trying something different, going to free shipping to see. And I know, I think it's Big Dre, if I'm not mistaken, you've done some things recently with your shipping where you've also done like on orders over a certain dollar amount. There's all kinds of things that you can try to experiment with when it's slow to see, number one, how they work. Number two, how it affects your margins. Are you still able to make money when you start doing things like free shipping? So that's terrific. And I'm glad to hear you're mentally doing okay. A little slow for me, June and July, says Miss Lachey. And that, again, like I said, I went back 5 years and consistently June and July are, if not the slowest 2 months each and every year, are right there in the bottom 3 or 4. Media Picker, overall still doing okay, down 20%, 28% over the last 31 days, but holding at over 42% up on this year compared to last year. That's outstanding. That is a massive increase. My listings have dropped due to all the family things I have going on. I know you've got some stuff there. And again, you're working a full-time gig on top of it, so it does make it tough. But you notice, because I know you respond every week to my post on the weekend on Instagram about how many listings I've done and how many I've sold. And you always post, and I can tell, and I'm sure you see it in your numbers too, when you do more listings, you do more sales. That correlation is so strong that it's it's just obvious that it's something that you've got to try to do when time and situations permit. Carla Kopic, love Wednesday at 11 for your shows. Sales are Thursday through Saturday here in the Midwest. Where are you? I'm obviously in the greater Cincinnati area, kind of in Ohio, and that seems to be, I've got one seller that I see that does sales on random days. She'll have a Monday and Tuesday sale. Just, again, probably the same thing, trying some counter programming, try to do something different. She's the only sale going on a Tuesday. If somebody's inclined to be out, they can only go to her sale. So I admire her for trying that. Have most of my items on eBay, but most of my sales have been on Etsy. So I'm doing more cross-posting. That is another great, I talk about cross-posting to multiple platforms pretty regularly. That, again, gets your stuff in front of more people. It's a great way to improve your business. My business still is very much eBay-centered. Probably 80% of my sales, transaction volume, is on eBay, but Etsy is way, way more profitable on an individual item basis. The ticket is a little higher because of how I list over there, but with their fees, generally speaking, being a little bit lower, I make way more money. I had a case, what was it, Monday? I think I had 23 or 24 items that sold on eBay, and I had 2 items that sold on Etsy, and my net profit was actually higher on Etsy with just 2 items than it was on eBay. By the time you factored in the difference in the retail price, because I had a lot of low value stuff that sold over the weekend on eBay, and the difference in the fees, Etsy was more profitable on less than 10% of the transactions. So it can definitely be helpful to be on additional platforms. Fern Flips, July is up for me. June was pretty slow. So that's exactly the opposite of what somebody said earlier. They had their best June ever, and July has been slow. So it's not consistent across everybody. It depends on your mix of products and kind of what you're doing. It's hard keeping up with listing when kids are home for the summer. We're full-time resellers, but having kids home means that we're much less full-time. Absolutely. And like I said, that's one of the things that affects people's ability to buy. The kids are at home, they're running them around, going to the amusement parks and on vacations and parties and all the rest of that, chasing them down for Little League and soccer. And there's just less people shopping during the summer. And at least with my business, once you get into August and you start to see some back to school stuff popping off, August is usually a big, big month for me. It's a big rebound. Miss Lachey resales. I try not to let sales determine my mood. That is very good if you can do it. That is a hard thing to do. So I just keep doing the things that have worked for me. I'm watching my spending more closely. Yeah, and again, I try to strike when the iron's hot. Like I don't need more books right now, but I continue to network, and when I get an offer, I feel like I got to take it, even though if things are a little bit slow. Again, I'm thinking longer term. I'm going to need inventory as I get into the winter months, and there's no garage sales really to speak of in this area after kind of the end of October. So I try to spend the money when I can, but you absolutely have to kind of monitor. You don't want to get overextended. I don't recommend, again, I generally don't try to preach too much. I don't recommend putting a lot of inventory on a credit card, especially if you don't know how fast it's going to sell, because you can really get yourself in some trouble. But the key thing there, like you say, is try not to let sales determine your mood. There's so much more to life than making good sales in a given day, though it helps. Indianapolis, I get up that way pretty regularly, not necessarily for sales. If you've been following along, I do part-time. I do dealer trade drives for the Volkswagen dealership that I used to work for. So if there's a car that they need that's in Indianapolis, for instance, at Tom Wood, they'll send me up there to take one car up and bring that car back. During the summer, I don't do a lot of those because I'm so busy out at the sales. He actually called me this morning, wants me to go up to Indianapolis tomorrow, and I can't because I've got to do this big book pickup. And they have to be out of the house by tomorrow evening. So too bad, so sad for him. Kaylee Debs, I also fixed a storage situation, had a tough shed built on my property, and got out of a storage unit off-site. That's outstanding. I, unfortunately, don't have the room on my property to do that, but That would be great. It's going to save me a boatload of money. Money saved is money earned. Absolutely. Whether that's through the cost of your items that you're purchasing, negotiating the best deal. I never hesitate to make offers when I'm at an estate sale. Even if it's on the first day and they clearly say there's no discounts, I will always ask, especially if I've got 2 or 3 tubs. If I've got 70 or 80 books, I'm going to try them on. I'm going to try to save myself an extra, whatever it is, 10, 15, 20% on my buy, because that's where you make your money. If you can save money on your supplies, on bubble mailers or boxes or whatever, you can recycle stuff. The live I did, what was it, about a month ago, where I showed you over my shoulder in the Bat Cave, I've got this big mountain of cardboard that I recycle to use as stiffeners and supports in items that I ship. Every little bit that you can do to save a little bit of money makes a huge difference at the end of the year. And I can't do, like I said, the storage on mine, but I did move from one storage unit to a different warehouse where I ended up with, probably triple the space for not a whole lot more money. So it's kind of killed 2 birds with 1 stone. It gave me more room, and on a per square foot basis, it's actually saving me money. So that was a win as well. I had a Beetle from Falcone VW. Yeah, I've been there a few times as well. That's a tough one for me to get to for some reason. There's so much. I don't know if it's still going on. I haven't been out there in a while, but there was so much construction on the highways through downtown Indy that store was a bit of a challenge to get to for a while. And I love VWs, by the way. Totally unrelated to anything reselling. The GTI or the Golf R is my dream car. So if anybody wants to give Ryan a great gift. I actually drive right now a Volkswagen Tiguan. That is my go-to vehicle that I load up 2 or 3 times a week full of books and bring them back here to the homestead to process. So it does still have a place in the garage, though my garage, the other side, is very, very full of stuff. So what are we at? Almost 40 minutes here, it looks like. So I normally like to keep these at an hour or less. So we'll make my first run here. If anybody has anything else that they would like to talk about today while we're all gathered here together, what are people's plans for getting ready for Q4? Do you stock different things? Do you pick up different stuff for Christmas? Do you treat your business differently? How many people here are big Halloween fans or Halloween sellers? What's that market look like for all of you? Yeah, that's a tough area. Get some King Ribs barbecue while you're down there sometime. I'm always looking for a place to go when I make that drive to get some food. So I will keep that under advisement. I'm going to take a quick break here to get some H2O, and we'll be right back. So my business, just as a aside, going into fourth quarter, I generally don't really do a whole lot different. I work my process the same in Q1 and 2 as I do in Q3 and 4. I tend to try to buy as many books as I can for as low a price as I can, and then I just kind of list them as they come. I've talked about before, I do try to segregate out the stuff that I think is either going to be more difficult to work or that might be lower value and work those last. So I've got a pretty good accumulation of stuff that I probably won't touch until really the slow time of year, maybe as late as January or February, when things really slow down, estate sales and garage sales get less. That's when I'll really start working that older, slower, what I assume is going to be slower moving and lower dollar volume inventory. So I do try to maximize when I go to a sale, segregate out the stuff I think I want to list first so that I can focus on the more profitable stuff. For instance, the sale I did this past weekend where I picked up 100 plus books. I'm working on that right now because that is higher value than the stuff I have in storage. Tomorrow I'm going to do another big pickup and I'll evaluate that, and I may focus on those as opposed to working on the ones that I pick up from last weekend. So it's all about managing when and where you list your inventory, and I don't make big changes going into the fourth quarter. Den Decor Depot, good morning. Doing my best to keep my eyes on Q4 right now. Get as much inventory up as possible. Absolutely. Get it up there now. I've heard, and again, my experience in retail, it's one of the reasons I actually got out of retail. They're already planning for Christmas. They're already getting stuff ready. They're already making their Black Friday plans. Some stores are already putting out some Christmas stuff probably, so it's never really too early. People do buy Christmas and Halloween year round, so yeah, get that stuff up. Big Dre made a lot of changes, including free shipping on orders of $60 or more. That's what I thought you had done. Miss Lachey, I supplement books and media with more winter clothing and accessories as well as holiday items. Vintage Christmas is my favorite. I used to work for a company that was really big in that, what was it, Department 56, I think, stuff that had like winter villages and all that kind of stuff. And I see that stuff out at sales from time to time. And I think, boy, I should look into that. But I just end up with tubs full of books. Lindy Moo, I've been doing this less than a year, so not able to compare much. I've been trying new items after getting used to only selling in a niche market. Been interesting the things folks will buy. And that is true. We've talked about that on this show quite a bit. You never know what someone is going to buy. And the same is true even with books. I talked about one last week, and I've got another one coming up for this week's podcast on Monday. That is a book that most people probably would not have even looked at, that I picked up. The one last week was a forest plan book for somewhere in the Carolinas. No comps, no information on it whatsoever. I went ahead and took a gamble on it and ended up with a $60 sale on like a $2 purchase. So you just never know what somebody's going to be looking for. Operating on eBay, just got a call from a friend this morning, wants me to help him sell his wife's music quickly. Would you recommend large lots or singles at a super low price? That's a tough one. Media Picker, if you'd like to chime in on this one as well, because I know you do a lot of stuff with music as well. I generally, like I've talked about even with books, if I've got an item that I think I can sell for $5 plus shipping or more, again, if my cost of goods sold is super, super low or free, I'll probably list it individually. But I'm also not in a big hurry to get rid of it. I don't mind to sit on it for a little bit. I've got room to store it. So if you wanted to move it quickly, I probably would lean towards lots, except on the stuff that is like the highest value. So you're probably going to have to still look at things individually, but then I would probably start to build lots either by artist or by genre. So heavy metal, hip hop, country, and so on. And then again, within those, if I got a bunch of Iron Maiden, pick out maybe the highest value ones to offer individually, and then do lots. Lots do really, really well for a lot of folks, and that will allow you probably to move that stuff quite a bit more quickly. Media Picker, I keep buying items despite not having time to post. I have 3 CD lots from eBay coming, YouTube videos coming, of course, then tomorrow night driving downstate for family, and then doing another buy there. And like I said, I never stop buying inventory, even when I know I've got more than I can work at any given time, because there will be times where, especially during the holidays, when you get towards Christmas, estate sales dry up. In my area, you might have 4 weeks where there's only a couple of sales. So having a big pile of stuff that I can work during that time is beneficial. And the only way you can do that is to always be buying when there's opportunity. When you see a good deal, assuming that it's not going to screw up your cash flow and so on, and take away your garage, as the case may be, I always try to get it while I can. Den Decor Depot, D56's money, sold lots of it over the years. See, there you go. I knew that stuff was valuable. I think I talked about that within the last couple of weeks on this show. I know I walk by stuff every day. I think it maybe was on the Wednesday Live I did with Derek and Regina last week. I know I'm making a beeline to the bookshelf. And I know I'm walking by tens or hundreds of dollars worth of stuff, but I've got my niche, and I know my process, and I know what I'm looking for, and I don't want to spend the time looking at stuff that is going to be a really high level of effort for me to try to determine whether it's something I really want or not. So and we probably all do it. We all walk by. Obviously, I know people walk by books all the time that are super high value because they don't want to mess with books. So we've all got our thing, but I know I do that all the time. Big Dre, right now, Zazzle has Black Friday sale going. If you want to make business cards, I suggest taking advantage. It's 50% off. There you go. Media Picker, I would probably do larger lots of similar artists, genres, and higher value CDs individually. There you go. We actually agreed on that. That's awesome. Opera Annie on eBay. Thanks. No Iron Maiden, I'm sure. She was in church choir director and piano teacher. So there you go. And again, those genres can do pretty well as well. I talk about pretty regularly. Religious books are fantastic. From the little leaflets from the old like Seventh-day Adventists and the Jehovah's Witness right up through study Bibles and big books. Music would be kind of the same thing. You're going to have to do, obviously, the research. Some of them are going to be more valuable than others, but there's definitely some value there. And I've heard some religious music that would be borderline Iron Maiden. I remember when I had my record store, I got a demo from a band that was hardcore. I mean, super, super heavy. But the lyrics were all spiritual and religious. It was a really interesting mix of stuff there. Media Picker says to Operini, maybe she secretly listens to Slayer. Somehow I doubt that one. That would be, you never know what people are doing, but that would be a shocker. We'll make the second call for any last things. We're at about 50 minutes here. So again, try to keep this at an hour because I know people got things they need to get done. I appreciate, as always, everybody coming out and spending a little bit of time here. If you've got something out of this, if you're watching on YouTube, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Well, I know you're watching on YouTube if you're here now. You get in the habit sometimes of just saying things like in the regular flow of your program, and then you're in a different situation and you say the same thing and it just sounds silly. But anyway, hit that thumbs up button and share this with anyone else that you know that might be interested in the topics we've discussed here today. The other news flash, in case anybody is interested, I did break down and go to the dark side. I now am also on TikTok. I'm not really yet posting anything super new there. If you're following me on Instagram, you're kind of getting that same content that you would get on TikTok. It's kind of short reels, clips of the shows and the episodes and the podcasts. But if you prefer TikTok to Instagram, I am now available on TikTok with the same name at Galaxy CDs Rocks. Operating on eBay. Thanks, you guys. You asked what we do to elevate our summer mood. This is it. Well, awesome. And this helps my mood too. Like I've said in past weeks, this is a nice break to get away from the listing for an hour and talk with people and interact in a way that is different than just the normal podcast where it's just me and the teleprompter talking to each other. Den Decor Depot, what's your most boring or unassuming but always brings money genre of books? That's a tough one. I would not have expected going in that, like I've talked about over the last few episodes, old vintage like physics and mathematics and engineering textbooks would have been high value. I just would never have dreamed that you're going to see a sale in this next episode coming up on Monday where there is a bunch of that stuff that sold that just brought crazy money. And I would never have dreamed that kind of category would be as profitable and sell as consistently well as it does. If you're out and about and you see like the old McGraw-Hill studies in engineering and electronic engineering, those books are almost all gold. Even if they're from the 40s and 50s, they all sell for generally $15 to $50. They're just terrific. And it's just not an area that I would have expected. An area that is consistently does well for me, though it is not always big money, is the old sci-fi digests and vintage sci-fi pulps, the books from the 50s and the 60s. Some of them can be really, really valuable. Some of them are $5, $10, $12 books. But again, if your cost of goods sold is low enough, those can all make sense, and They're nice bread and butter type items. And those I actually love. I set aside some of those for myself to read. Then Decor Depot have always done well with automotive manuals. They're almost always a quick flip. When I can get those at the right price, the old, like the Chilton manuals are generally really good. This pickup tomorrow, I understand, has got a bunch of old vintage automotive books. I'm really anxious to see what's up there. This is a sight unseen pickup. This was a recommendation. Again, going back to the whole networking thing. So I was at a sale on Friday last week, one of my favorite sellers, and just chatting her up as normal. There was nothing at her sale that I was interested in. And as I'm getting ready to leave, and she says, "Oh, by the way, I've got a sale that we did a few weeks ago that there are just boxes and boxes of old books. Would you be interested?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, of course I would be interested." She says, "I'm going to be up there on Monday. I'll give you a call and you can come up and look at them." Monday came and went. I didn't hear from her, so I assumed she had worked something else out. She sends me a text yesterday. She says, "I don't have time to get up there. Here's a contact person who has the books. Give them a shout." Called, left her a message. She calls me this morning and she's like, "If you want them, you can just come pick them up. I just got to have them out of here by tomorrow." So I have no idea what they are. They have been defined to me as boxes of old books. She did say today that some of them are automotive. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, they can be really, really good. I've noticed, at least in my area, some estate sellers have now started marking those books up, which makes it a little more difficult. I've seen some as high as $10, and they're going to retail sometimes for $15. Obviously, as a seller, you just can't make that math make sense. So then Decor free inventory is the best inventory. Absolutely. It is. You got to go through it all. Like I said, I don't know what's in there. I don't know how much of it is good, how much of it's sellable. I don't know what the condition of it is. I'm pleased that it's already boxed. That will be helpful to get it out of there. But you don't know. But yeah, for that kind of cost of goods sold, it is absolutely a win. Aaron, hey, I caught you live. I'll come back to watch the beginning later. I appreciate that. Thank you. Carla, I'm at Chilton. My father's side, he was also a mechanic and ran Chilton's garage in Illinois. Well, there you go. That's cool. Yeah, those books, those and the Haynes manuals, I generally will snap them up right away. A lot of times I don't even comp them anymore. If I see them and they're like $1, I'll just grab them off the shelf and throw them in my bag or in my tub and take them and deal with it later. They're generally very, very good. Maybe the next video could be an unboxing of tomorrow's pickup. I may have to do that. I used to do kind of just obviously on the YouTube portion, I would do a video kind of when I got back home, going through the back of the SUV and showing some of the stuff I picked up. But maybe I'll do some of that if I can get a setup with the camera. I've got this whole rig now is like permanently in here. Like my camera is 6 or 8 feet away. It's really hard to get to. So I'll have to probably try to do it with my phone. But yeah, maybe I'll try to shoot some stuff. Maybe that'll be my first real unique venture over on TikTok. Maybe you could catch it over there. Let's see. Fern Flips would love to watch an unboxing video of your pickup tomorrow. All right, I will keep that in mind. I will try to get set up to do some of that. Those manuals are 10 to 20 times all day long. Yeah, absolutely. Even in awful condition, they will sell and bring money because some of them you just can't find anymore. And it's amazing some of the condition that you'll find because most people use them. You don't buy a Haynes or a Chilton automotive manual to put it on the shelf like an antique book. It's out in your garage. So a lot of them have like oil stains and they're dirty and grimy and whatever. And people still will pay good money for those because the information is super valuable. And especially on those older cars, there's just no other way to get it today. Those manuals are awesome. Love, love, love finding sales with those. And I'm hopeful that maybe there's some of those in tomorrow's find. With that being said, guys, we're going to wrap this thing up. As always, I appreciate everybody that came out and spent a little bit of time today. Again, if you could do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, share this with anyone else. We will be back here next week with something different and special. I'm going to sit down and do a conversation with Liz O'Kane from Colorado Rewarn. She has a terrific Instagram account. If you're not following her, you need to do that. She is absolutely awesome. We're going to have a conversation with her. So think about questions that you might be interested in asking her for next week. Have a great week. Yes, everybody have a terrific week. I hope everybody is doing well, fighting the summer slowdown. I hope your business is picking up. I hope you got something from each other or from this show today that will help you either fight through the mental toughness that is summer slowdown, or that will actually help you grow your business going forward. I look forward to seeing everybody next week with Liz. And now it's time to sell. Thanks, guys.